Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Unfortunately, my prediction is taking place. Unfortunately, I have been stating for about a year and a half, 2 years now, we're going to have a devastating, brutal stock market crash. Forbes, Dow plummets nearly 1,000 points. How the stock market plunge could impact 2024. The Guardian fears of U.S. recession rattles global markets as tech shares fall. Fortune, what's behind the stock market's brutal two-day crash? It's going to be, unfortunately, a terrible, terrible market crash. The silver lining is that Trump is going to win. This cements Trump's victory. Okay, so there's no way that Trump doesn't win from this market crash because the policies of the Democratic Party and Biden caused all of this. They ignored inflation. They said it was temporary. Alberto, God bless you. Thank you so very much. Everyone watching, thank you. Hit subscribe. Let's just get to the job numbers really quickly, and then we'll talk about the policies of Biden and Harris that led to this and the fact that Trump is going to obviously benefit. He'll win without a shadow of a doubt because Democrats have mismanaged the economy.
It's time for the July jobs report. The over keeps coming in, Rick.
The under wins.
Oh,
the
good.
under wins for the July jobs report. Non-farm payrolls comes in at 114,000. 114,000. Of course, that is the lightest level going back to minus 243,000, which was Dece of 2020 in the pandemic-affected months, of course. Now, if we look at the unemployment rate moved up to.
When unemployment is going up, and most of the jobs are government jobs, and everything that Biden, Harris, and Democrats and media told you about the economy is a lie. Inflation is not under control. Interest rates did not do enough to stop the rise of inflation because you have a 27% increase, for example, in food prices since Biden took office, 25 to 27%, because inflation is compounded. So when they say, well, inflation it's only at 3%, yeah, but it was at 9% in 2022. That's why they raised interest rates. But let's continue.
4.3 moved up to 4.3. That is the warmest it's been since October of 21. And if we look at revisions, I should bring that out rather quickly. We see that last month's non-farm moved from 206,000 down to 179,000. Now let's look at average hourly earnings month over month, up 0.2, 1/10 lighter than both rear view mirror and windshield. If we look at up 0.2, that is the lightest. It equals April. You have to go to February to find a smaller number when it was up 1/10. Let's take a macro and go year over year on average hourly earnings, also coming in light, 3.6. 3.7 was expected. 3.9 in the rearview mirror becomes 3.8.
And you look, the yield curves are inverted. So you should have a higher 10-year Treasury yield than a 2-year Treasury yield. This is an indicator of recession. Why? Because generally, a 10-year yield shows more promise. People want their money safe, so they generally invest in the U.S. economy, and they make an educated guess or bet that the U.S. economy and the U.S. Political system will be stable 10 years from now. And so a 2-year Treasury usually is just a short-term place to put a short-term safe place to put money. It's usually a lower yield than a 10-year Treasury. You would think it would be lower because you're able to get your money out quicker. But that's not the case. The yield is higher for the 2-year because people don't want to take a long-term bet on the U.S. They would rather just take a short-term they'd rather take their chances with 2 years as opposed to 10 years because they don't believe we're on a trajectory. That's a good trajectory for the country. That's bad.
0.6 going into the Wayback Machine, you have to go all the way back to May of 21 when it was 2.3. So big drops there. Weekly average work week for all employees comes in at 34.2. We also lost a tenth there. Week shortened a little bit. 34.2 equals where we started the year out in January. To find a smaller work week, you have to go to March of 2020 when it was 34, right on the nose. Now let's look at the participation rate. This is always important, and good news here. We're expanding. We're pulling some more in. 62.7. That equals where we were in April. To find a higher number, you go to November last year at 62.8. And finally, U3 was 4.3. U6, the underemployment rate, moves to 7.8. That is a huge jump from 7.4. I'm going to have to go in the Wayback Machine here. 7.8 would be the highest underemployment rate, U6, since it was 8.1 in October of 21. We see that this weak data joins other weak data in pushing yields down. And what is notable here, and this is big time, 379 on a 10-year. Where did it close last year? At 388. It moves into the black and joins other maturities. That 2-year closed 4.25 last year. And of course, it's trading right now at 387. And just to show you how huge these moves are, gang, 386 now in a 2-year. It closed at 438 last week. 10-year at 378, 379. It closed at 419 last week. So you could see these are historic rate drops, and they do portend the easing cycle that may be built in for factors that seem to be all about weakness.
All right, so this is definitely not what Democrats want. Again, I don't want people to lose money. I've been predicting this. There's a stock market prediction playlist. I've been talking about this for 2 years. I wrote about this in the Federalist. Hit subscribe to this channel if you're new. I will have a live stream right after this in the stock market crash live stream. But here, let's go ahead and let's listen to exactly why I don't believe Kamala Harris has any chance against Trump. I think this is the big, major, catastrophic stock market crash that I've been talking about on this channel and the stock market crash channel. I have started that back up again.
A stunning new Associated Press NORC poll, nearly 6 out of 10 voters predict President Trump will win in November versus 42% for Kamala Harris. And the Cook Political Report, they have a new average of 15 polls. Trump still leads Harris by 1.3 points. That's similar to the Hill and Decision Desk, which shows Trump leading Harris by 1.2 points. Let's get in here right now to editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine and Forbes Media. He's the chairman. He's Steve Forbes. So even though it seems like the race is tightening, that's a surprising AP NORC poll. Trump looks has better odds to win, according to voters.
Well, I think it's a very encouraging one. It also should encourage Republicans headed by Donald Trump to go for issues, go for real questions. Do you favor men boxing women? Do you favor the open borders? And then hit on, we want tax cuts. We want to allow you to have a dishwasher that works, air conditioners that work. You don't have to buy an EV. So we're going to make your life better. They want to make it worse. And so I think that's what the Republicans should hit on, a Reagan-esque, positive Reagan-esque message, and national security. One thing this administration doesn't want you to understand is the disastrous state of our military readiness today and ability to make weapons because of what Biden has done and what Barack Obama did before him.
Yeah, so on all fronts you're talking about a
Absolutely.
Strong America and prosperous America. So stocks are really taking hits today. There's fears of recession. The ADP.
This is the second day, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the second major correction, major collapse in the Dow, the Nasdaq, the S&P, Bitcoin. You have to understand, a catalyst for for example, smaller banks going under, okay, might not be a too big to fail moment, but it could be. The problem, however, is that smaller banks, like the past couple of years, can go under. Hedge funds could go under. Crypto Ponzi schemes could exacerbate everything and actually create an even greater stock market, an even worse, more catastrophic stock market crash. So I've been talking about this in the stock market crash playlist. Check that out. That'll be below. And by the way, like I said, the silver lining, if you could call it a silver lining, and I want Trump to win, but I don't want people to lose money, but this is the fault of the policies of the Democratic Party. It's happening 4 years into Biden and Harris's presidency. Okay, maybe it was always Harris's presidency. Who knows? But it's 4 years. You can't blame Trump. I mean, it's like so hilarious. There's researchers say Trump's rhetoric caused the market crash. You have to be a complete imbecile and know nothing about the stock market to think that Trump's words, everything is associated. If a meteor flew down and hit the world, it would be Trump's words caused it. It's really just unbelievable. They're obsessed with Trump's personality and his words. It's like, deal with his personality and get a great economy and a great foreign policy. Meanwhile, you have the personality of Harris and Biden. They're not winning any personality contests, so I don't really understand the obsession with Trump. With Trump, we had a great economy and a great foreign policy. We have unmitigated disasters, and people still vote Democrat. It's like, that's the cult, not the person who supports Trump. I would not vote for Trump had he cheated a candidate or had the Republicans just anointed someone else. Or anointed him. Okay, he earned his spot. Okay, the VP did not. Biden was forced out after literally winning his primary.
The job growth report came out, just 122,000 jobs. I think that's the lowest in like 6 months. There's fears of stagflation. We know that Americans are falling behind in their wage growth. I think real wages hourly after inflation is down like more than 2%. But what are the chances Kamala Harris could have survived, a real 18-month run for the White House? I mean, when her 2024 race and 2020 race rapidly fell apart. So that was after multiple interviews, debates, but now she's only doing staged, managed, teleprompted events. She's avoiding the press, pretty much doing what Biden did, hiding, doing no pressers, no press conferences.
They think that they can get away with that because they did 4 years ago. The problem is that there's a stock market crash in real time. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week will be very important to see if this is the major stock market collapse. And if that happens, unfortunately, people will be losing jobs. Intel is cutting 15,000 jobs. That's just one company. And so when you have a market collapse, you have a cascading a whole list of things, unfortunate consequences that take place. For for the next 100 days. I mean, this is the Biden approach. I mean, do you think voters are going to see this? Because she's also not bringing up Bidenomics. She's not mentioning Biden in her campaign speeches or ads, and she's not talking anything about inflation.
No, because those are real issues, the issue of inflation. What I think they're going to do, what we have to do, get the Democrats to have their convention out of the way and then start hitting them hard. Don't even wait till Labor Day. These are the issues, and hit that. Is she going to participate in 2 or 3 real debates? Is she going to participate in real forums where questions are asked? That's an open thing.
Okay. Let's get your reaction to President Trump speaking about what he would do to fix the economy. And then you're going to hear Kamala Harris when she was asked what she's going to do to stop inflation. This is a couple of years ago when inflation was really rocketing higher. You're going to hear kind of a non-answer from Kamala Harris. So watch this. Let's get your reaction.
They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient heating. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that you buy an all-electric car.
We will end the Biden-Harris war on American energy, and we will end their terrible war on fracking. The policy of the Trump administration will be to drill, baby, drill.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you would prevent the new spending and your Build Back Better agenda from exacerbating the problem? And also, what else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up.
Yes, that's very insightful. That's what's called inflation, ladies and gentlemen. And let's continue. It's like, I don't know, maybe AOC knows more about the economy than Harris. I don't know. All I know is that I don't believe that Harris has an actual plan to address inflation that, by the way, affects the entire country. Democrats are focused on identity and background. It affects everybody. Inflation is a tax upon everyone, especially the poor and working class that Democrats claim to care about so much. And when asked, she then gives not even a dissertation, just a very sophomoric definition of what's taking place. Like, well, yes, food is going up. Do you have any idea of how to address this aside from raising interest rates and flooding the country full of strategic petroleum reserves?
What, do you need a Venn diagram for that? I mean, she was looking down at her notes and stating the obvious still. What do you think, Steve?
Well, she had no answer. That's the bottom line. She doesn't know what to do about the Fed. She can't come out against spending. She can't come out in favor of tax cuts, which will reduce the cost of living. So that's why we want those debates. Put her on the spot. She has nothing substantive to say to the American people that would make their lives better.
Final word, Steve. I mean, even shoplifters are blaming inflation for why they're doing retail theft. Fox Business had that story. What do you think of that?
Nonsense. If you don't punish people who steal, they're going to steal.
Exactly.
Hello, it's been true for 4,000 years.
This is a real shocker. Look at that headline. All right.
So people in wonderful, highly educated, morally superior blue states are blaming just taking items on the cost high inflation. Well, it's like, yeah, I guess you could. What is it? Who is the bank robber that said, well, that's where the money is? Who is it? Sutton. And it's like, well, yeah, I rob banks because inflation. Is that a person robs a bank because there's inflation? What? But let's listen to what's taking place. I mean, this is like Amazon, Intel. This is a spiral, ladies and gentlemen, and it could be a catastrophic market crash with smaller banks going under, cryptocurrencies going to zero, people's retirement portfolios being down 50, 60%. I mean, it's just, this is all, I wrote about this in the Federalist, it's all the fault of Democratic Party policies. 95%. Because when they say, well, Trump, he ballooned the debt. It's like, what? It was Democrats who pushed for the shutdown, the economic shutdown. And the most disingenuous political nonsense is leveled at Trump.
Greg Smith joins me now to analyze what's going on with this market. Greg, welcome back to the show.
Hey, good morning, Stuart.
It's a major league sell-off. Stocks way down, interest rates way down. What's your analysis?
Well, my father always said, hard come, easy go. And certainly investors are feeling that pain this week.
Wow.
But I think in a tape like this, that long-term investors need to have a shopping list. They need to look around and pick some spots and look to pick up quality names that they want to own for the long term. But I think as you just started off the top of the hour on the
So I respectfully disagree. I think that I'm not giving any investment advice. I'm not giving any investment advice. You know, I used to be a financial advisor a long time ago, like 20 years ago. And you're taught not to time the market. The only problem, however, and I'm not telling anyone what to do, is if you have a retirement account and you need the money to live, you have no business, in my humble view. I'm not telling you to sell or buy. If I had a retirement account in stocks and I needed the money, I would take the money out of the stocks immediately. Okay, immediately. Let's say it goes back up Monday, because the 40% drop in everything is around the corner. Could happen in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It could take 4 weeks. It doesn't have to be a monumental 10,000 point drop in the Dow. It could be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 over the span of several weeks. Then a 2,000 point drop. Then it goes up. Then a 2,000 point drop again. And who knows how it goes? It's at 40,000 now, or whatever, 39,000. But if corporate profits, they're talking about corporate profits being so low that the market, this Dow Jones goes back to 28,000, 27,000, 26,000. So what happens, do you think, to cryptocurrencies, to banks that are exposed to cryptocurrencies, to crypto Ponzi schemes? Crypto Ponzi schemes. Again, I'm not an expert on crypto. I used to be a financial advisor 20 years ago, but I can't give any expert advice on anything, because it's like Democrats always say trust the experts, but they would never do everything their financial advisor said, even though that person would be an expert, according to their definition. That's an appeal to authority argument that they use to just subjugate, the unfortunate people that they've indoctrinated. But anyway, if you have a retirement account, and again, I'm not giving investment advice, you probably should think twice about keeping your money in the market, just because the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, if you need the money to live, I don't know what to say. I wouldn't, if I needed the money to live, I wouldn't be in the market. But I'm not telling you to sell or buy. I'm just saying I would not. I would take my money out. But that's not investment advice. I'm telling you what I would do. I don't trust this market at all. I think that it's the beginning of a terrible collapse.
The show, the consumer is weakening. We're actually hearing two mixed messages from big tech in the last 24 hours. On the one hand, we heard Apple give actually positive numbers and talk about, a somewhat healthy consumer. But then we heard a negative forecast from Amazon talking about how they're seeing weakness going forward. But
look, big tech's selling off. Apple's slightly high, got $5 on that one, but the rest of them are selling off quite sharply. I was always told that when interest rates come down, big tech does very well. What broke that equation?
Well, I think right now also you're seeing a fear amongst tech that we are seeing so much spend. We are seeing these companies announce CapEx spending, particularly on AI, of spending tens and tens of billions of dollars. And also I want to point out today there's a lot of attention being paid to Intel. Intel, I think, is a microcosm.
There's no capital expenditure spending in a recession, or very little, I should say. That plummets. So then AI will plummet.
I think this is a broken company. They are having a death spiral March 2000 moment in terms of their decline. It's certainly weighing on the Dow as a member of the Dow. But I think that is more of an isolated event because they have a lot of battles going on.
Question of the day, which everybody wants answered, is this slide going to continue from here on out?
Look, I think that it's no secret coming into an election, there's always going to be volatility. I personally didn't think the volatility was going to start until after Labor Day, so I think the volatility will continue. And as I said, investors should have a long-term shopping list.
Should they buy now? I mean, you've got
I would pick some spots.
So I respectfully disagree. This gentleman is probably wealthier and more educated and knowledgeable about the market than I am. The only thing I'd say is Jeremy Grantham, Michael Burry, very, very accomplished. Forget intelligence. They possess wisdom. People with wisdom who have called market crashes prior have stated, and then look, not everybody's right. You know what? They were wrong. It's like, so, yeah, okay. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I've been wrong. I've been right a lot of the time, most of the time, but I've been wrong. Why would anyone have a shopping list when the entire market's about to tank, in my view? And I think this is a precursor to, because think about it. The only silver lining is Trump winning. But if you have Intel going down, Amazon down, Bitcoin crashing, well, how many Ponzi schemes are in Bitcoin? You don't have to answer in the comment section. Just ask yourself that question. If you happen to stumble upon this, how many Ponzi schemes do you think? How many Sam Bankman-Fried type Ponzi schemes do you think are in Bitcoin or crypto? Okay, do you think that would exacerbate or expedite a financial collapse? How much crypto is tied to banks? There's an ETF. Isn't there? There's a crypto ETF. So, and then you have just the market valuation being at all-time highs with a recession on the horizon. I don't get it. I just don't get it. It's all because Democrats pushed to shut down economic activity because of you know what. In the typical, oh my God, if you don't listen to us, everything's going to be horrible. And then, of course, we listen to them and we're forced to listen and forced to do what they ask. And then nothing works out anyway. Let's continue.
There's some things I would start to pick up. I have a shopping list of other things I'd like to see trade lower. So I think the answer is yes. I think it's okay to start tiptoeing into the water. I think Amazon, from a technical level, approaching 160 looks good. I think made on more weak.
One of the things I think that also media is like, oh, Democrats can win this. And the stock market's like, no. So media is inadvertently, they say that Trump caused this with his rhetoric. It's like, what? The man just survived an attempt on his life. You couldn't give him you couldn't be graceful to him for a couple of weeks and not make up nonsense. But anyway, let's continue.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. I have a history of working on this issue. I'm committed to passing a Green New Deal, creating clean jobs.
Fracking, that could wipe out tens of thousands of jobs in swing states like Pennsylvania. But now she's flip-flopping on that and a bunch of other positions. Okay, Vice President Harris is now in Texas to speak at a sorority event, but still no visit to the border. Joining us now, former Reagan economist Art Laffer. Art, it's always a pleasure to have you on. We love having you on the show, Art. You're so smart. Okay, so now the media is finally saying, it's good to see you. The media is finally saying the honeymoon is over for Kamala Harris. It seems like they're trying to sell an image of a brand of her here because she's not talking inflation or Bidenomics or bringing up even Joe Biden in her campaign speeches now in places like Wisconsin and Indiana and Georgia.
Yeah, no, she has a real record, Liz. I mean, she has one with Biden, which is the Biden administration, all the policies they did. She supported a lot of that. In some of the cases, I think even she was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate on certain issues, too. She also has a record as Attorney General in the state of California. She also has a record as a U.S. Senator on what she actually voted for, not just ticky talk, what she says. And when she looks at it, she's been for the Green New Deal. She's been very proud and very upfront on all of that. She's been for trying to control production of oil and
Notice how disingenuous and duplicitous many top Democrats are. AOC, is she bringing up the Green New Deal now? No, they don't. And then the left, it's like I was on the left for most of my life. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. There's a video of me years back saying, oh, I want to ban fracking. I was indoctrinated. And before that, I was a financial advisor, and I knew better. You ban fracking, and you make it double to triple the price to heat your home, especially in regions of the country where it's very, very cold, and you perhaps very likely couldn't survive a winter without heating your home. It makes no sense at all. Yeah, I get there's certain reasons to want to ban fracking. I get that. But the economics make no sense. Okay, single payer. These are all things not feasible. Yeah, I get the moral element, but it's immoral to push something that's not feasible. And that would, make, healthcare worse in many ways. But again, it's like studies that show that these are not feasible are dismissed as, Republican-led studies. And then, of course, they point to studies that are, overtly partisan on their end for a variety of topics. But the point is, this is ideology that they don't even believe. Democrats wield ideology. You have a great number of voters who choose the Democratic Party who are susceptible to the ideology. They truly believe in single payer and banning fracking, but the Democrats don't. That's why they use that as a carrot to just lie and deceive voters. Then they say Trump lies. Like, no, he doesn't. I support Trump. I know that on every major topic, he's either fulfilled his obligation and promise or tried to and was stopped by never Trump Republicans and primarily Democrats. But Democrats are like not even interested in the stuff that they think that they claim to care about.
And carbohydrates here in the U.S. And she has that record, and she's going to stick by those votes. And so far, she has never been a friend of energy. She's never been a friend of energy production, and she probably would not govern that way if she were elected president. And I think it's really fair to hold her to her actual votes. I just think
because if she's elected, our cost of living could go up. The Fed today did not cut interest rates. All right, it may do a quarter point cut later this year. I mean, so. Just if you could follow me on this, because I want to make sure we're correct here. So Harris is avoiding talking about inflation. It's been stuck above 3% for 39 straight months under Biden-Harris. Inflation shot higher. I think you're talking about this. Inflation shot higher to 4% right after the American Rescue Plan was signed by Biden, and then to 9% after Biden tossed trillions of dollars of hot money into a struggling U.S. economy. I mean, Trump handed Biden a 1.4% inflation rate. But Art, wasn't it stuck below 3% for? Wasn't it stuck below 3% for nearly 10 years?
It was very low. We had it down there. I mean, it wasn't nice. I like it even lower than 1.5 or 2 or 1%. I'd like it lower than that. But her fingerprints are all over these policies. I mean, clearly higher energy prices has contributed to inflation. What she also has done is they reappointed Powell there. His policies on handling the balance sheet have clearly been the administration policies of doing that. And if you look at all the bills that she's voted on or sat ready to break a tie, her fingerprints are all of those. And to my way of thinking, Liz, and not to be mean or nasty, but I don't think those have been good policies. I think we've had very slow growth in this country relative to what we should have had following the pandemic. And I think we've had way too high inflation. And I think the participation rate in this country is way below where it should be because we've given out all of these welfare checks and all these stimulus funds, which has encouraged people not to go back to work. Yeah. And I think what we should do is really do pro-growth policies. And the pro-growth policies of Donald Trump were pretty darn good. And I think they'd really get this economy jump-started.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think he handed Biden a 4%, 5% GDP growth rate. Now we're trending around 1.4 stagflation. Watch even a CNN panelist. Let's get your reaction to even a CNN panelist say Kamala Harris is a socialist. And you're going to hear people, attendees at the teachers' union convention in Houston, they say they can't name anything she's accomplished. Plus, you're going to hear Hispanic voters saying, we're going to go for Trump after they went for Biden. Watch this.
What we're witnessing is a sugar high. We all crash at the end of it. And they're going to crash once they start dissecting her record. And I elected people in California. To win anything in San Francisco, you have to be a near socialist to win there. Those values are very much outside of the mainstream.
I don't know. She was vice president of the United States, and she was attorney general in California, and she was the senator from California. I really don't know much of what she did.
I'm not sure I know enough about her accomplishments to answer that question.
It's just I don't trust her.
Why?
Because her background, I don't trust her.
Final word, Art.
Yeah, she's never been in private business. She's been in government all her life, which is a socialist organization where you get fixed pay. And she's just not going to do a good job, I don't think, on creating an incentive environment for the economy. That's what we need.
Art, no one does it like you. We find it such a pleasure to have you on the show. You just go right at it. We appreciate you,
best,
Art Laffer.
Liz.
No, you. Okay,
Thank you
Love Fest
much.
is over. Thank you, Art Laffer.
Let's start.
Also, they don't believe, they talk about taxing the Bernie Sanders billionaires. They're not paying their fair share. It's like, well, there are billionaires. There are more billionaires backing Biden and Harris than Trump. And there are more corporations as well. The most uneducated, foolish viewpoint is that, well, Democrats are, for the people, and it's the moneyed interests is the Republican Party. Maybe if you wanted to talk about like 30, 40 years ago, maybe you could say something like that. But nowadays, all the moneyed interest goes to the Democratic Party. And they tank the economy. So now you're seeing slowly billionaires here and there go for Trump. Slowly tech people go for Trump, Elon Musk, others. But now Democrats want to tax businesses at a much higher rate while we have a recession and a stock market crash tanking the economy, unfortunately, soon. Unfortunately.
I am proposing that we change the tax code so for every family that is making less than $100,000 a year, they will receive a tax credit that they can collect up to $500 a month, which will make all the difference between those families being able to get through the end of the month with dignity and with support or not. And on day one, I will repeal that tax bill that benefits the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America.
Out of curiosity, why haven't Democrats repealed Trump's tax cuts? Oh, that's right, because people like them, because they actually help the economy. Okay, if you say Trump's tax cuts didn't help the economy, oh, really? Why didn't Democrats repeal them? Why did they keep the tariffs and the tax cuts? Can somebody answer that? Oh, that's right, because they were actually good policies that Democrats were afraid of doing away with.
And I actually feel very strongly about this, is that we need to have Medicare for all. Having a system.
So whenever Democrats say, I feel very strongly about this, they don't. So she hasn't brought up Green New Deal, Medicare for all, banning fracking, and she won't. Because they don't believe any of those things. And to their defense, those things aren't even feasible.
That makes a difference in terms of who receives what based on your income is unconscionable, it is cruel, and in many situations that I have witnessed, inhumane.
Look at the pontificating, the kind of the soapbox morality, the kind of, oh, I'm so moral and I'm going to take a stand and I'm going to protect what's just and good. The economy stinks. There's been inflation. We have a major crisis at the border. Humanitarian, if you don't think it's national security, it's everything. Chaos throughout the world. Interest rates, inflation, stock market crashing before our very eyes. Where's the sudden act, about this morally superior, to pretend you're morally superior?
That's Kamala Harris' 2019 campaign proposals and her record in the Senate in focus as she hits the campaign trail this week. In the past, the vice president pushed for increased taxes across the board to pay for progressive programs such as Medicare for all. This includes bumping capital gains taxes to 35%, increasing the estate tax. If Harris is able to secure the presidency and implement any of these policies, what impact could it have on the economy and middle-class Americans? Joining me now, Americans for Tax Reform President Grover Norquist. Grover, thanks very much for joining us this weekend. What kind of proposals are you expecting from Kamala Harris, and what kind of an impact might you expect?
She has a series of tax increases, many of them much worse, more radical, more devastating to the economy than even what Biden put forward. The Biden administration, along with Kamala, came out for a capital gains tax of 44.6%, 44.6%, twice China's. Who's going to invest in the United States if Kamala and Biden got their way on that one? The President Biden wants to take the corporate income tax from 21%, which is sort of competitive with Europe, up to 28%, higher than Europe, higher than China. Kamala has said 35%. She wants to take that rate up to 35%, which, of course, makes it significantly higher than China. Why would you invest or build a factory in the United States if we're at 35 and they're at 15 to 25? It'd be higher than anything in Europe, higher than Venezuela. She wants more. She wants a carbon tax. She's been much clearer about the carbon tax even than Biden was. And the carbon tax leads inevitably to a value-added tax because they want to extend the tax on energy to all things, as they do in Europe. There is, and a financial transaction tax, which has usually been something out in left-wing Gaga land. She's endorsed that along with the senator from Vermont, who is out in Gaga land. And she holds hands with him and supports the idea of putting a tax every time there's a financial transaction in the country.
The vice president also pushed for universal basic income in her time as a U.S. senator. Harris proposed $2,000 monthly payments for Americans making less than $100,000 a year in 2020 and an additional $2,000 for up to 3 children. What effect would that kind of policy have on the U.S. taxpayer, Grover?
Well, it simply increases the number of people who become dependent on welfare and end up not working. One of the challenges we have in the Kamala Biden economy is that welfare payments are so high and inflation is so damaging to wages that people are not coming back to work. The percentage of the population of working age that is working is not growing. It's falling, and it's a significant problem that workers are not coming out to work because of things like Kamala's idea of throwing more welfare. She's also dropped the comment by Biden, the lie Biden told that he'd only tax people who made less than $400,000, more than $400,000. I'm going to tax people who make more than $400,000. Then he said, well, actually, the married couple, it's only $200,000. Oh, and by the way, inflation is such that it goes even lower, that he has made people more and more susceptible. Her idea of the taxes she wants to raise, particularly on energy, will hit everyone. And the corporate income tax, as she well knows, is paid not by some guy named Mr. General Motors. It's paid by workers in lower wages directly. It's paid by all Americans in higher prices. And it's paid by retirees in reduced pensions, 401ks, IRAs that are damaged by those taxes. The corporate income tax hits middle America first and last. That's who pays it. The left likes it because it's a hidden tax, but it's a tax on middle America.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is crashing right now, and all of their policies and I was on the left, and I like these policies, and I didn't understand, nor did I appreciate the fact that they're not feasible. It's not even possible. They don't even have a single payer in a single state. Okay, Vermont doesn't have single payer health care. Okay, they don't talk about banning fracking. They're not even mentioning Green New Deal because they're lying all the time. Then they say, Trump's such a liar. Like, what did he lie about? CNN has like Trump's top 10, 15 lies. They're not even, none of them have to do really with national security or anything like that. It's Democrats who said, oh, yeah, inflation is temporary. Were they lying or inept? Okay. Oh, well, we have this new bipartisan border bill. Or were they lying or inept that it would actually address the issues? After they completely did away with any semblance of a border. Or the foreign policy catastrophe around the world because of Biden's foreign policy. But anyway, their energy policy led to this. They wanted to do away with oil and gas. Then they made it difficult for American companies to extract oil and gas. Then they begged other countries to give us oil while they flooded strategic petroleum reserves, raised interest rates, and said, this was after they said inflation was only temporary. So you're paying double for a mortgage payment in Biden's America as you were with Trump, but the original sin is shutting down economic activity. Literally everything they touched turned to you know what. They did virtually nothing right. Everything was like the aggregate numbers, if you looked at them, were terrible. And now the market is like, oh, there's a recession ahead. And all of that money that was pumped into the market because of the $10 to $15 trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus, that's all going to unfortunately evaporate. And the average American is going to suffer. Now, the way the Democrats see things, it's like if you vote for Trump, you deserve everything that happens. Like, well, I don't look at it like that. I don't look at it like that. I don't think that Democrats or people who vote Democrat deserve to lose their retirement savings because of mismanagement by Biden and Harris. But unfortunately, that's probably going to take place. I think that there's a terrible market crash on the horizon within the next couple of days. Go to the stock market crash right now. I will be there